In this film, our aim was to explore the role of family, culture, and community in mental health. We interviewed individuals who were willing to share their story of mental illness, family members of individuals with mental illness, and workers who provide resources to individuals with mental illness.
With mental health, often one of the things they experience is a sense of isolation, a sense of loneliness or aloneness. And a family can, if they're able to come around and support the family member who's experiencing the mental health challenges, can help very significantly reduce that sense of isolation or aloneness. Family members are often the people who have known the person the longest, have the most frequent amount of contacts with the person.
So for the most part, I would say that most of the members that come to the clubhouse don't have a lot of family involvement. A lot of them have lost their children. A lot of them have their family doesn't want to talk to them, and their relationship was lost before they were diagnosed a lot of times. But I'm finding with the younger generation that parents are involved, siblings are involved in their recovery, and I believe this is going to start to get better, and it all has to do with education.
I had to do a lot of work at the farm. I was the oldest, I'm 67, and I regret doing work for them.
Well, at the time I was in foster care, so they took it okay. They said they're going to be there to help me out with everything.
Sure.
They were very supportive, but not really understanding. They were only supportive in a way of trying to fix me, make me happy, cheer me up, or try to almost like they're making sure I got everything I wanted, but I didn't want that.
There wasn't much support from my mom until later on in the years. She has gotten a little more supportive over the years with it, and has helped me when I had landed in the hospital. She's come out and been supportive with me and helped with the care of my pets in that area, but my mother didn't want to accept that I had a diagnosis of a mental illness.
Impact your life?
He's actually inspired me to be a mental health worker. My father committed suicide when I was 27 years old, and I was going to school for business administration. And just knowing the kind of guy my father was, it just made me want to be around people like him.
I can see when I talk to clients that haven't had family connection for a long time, they have a hard time getting their life on track and moving forward. They're continually seeking for that place to belong. And if you don't have
So many people who have challenges with mental health report that the stigma around mental health is sometimes as difficult, if not more difficult, than the actual mental health challenge they're dealing with. And community can really help people with mental health challenges by combating stigma in a very real, tangible way.
Some human beings in a community setting are not able to grasp being around somebody with a visible or with a mental illness as supportive as we should, as a whole, as a community, as human beings. So I think it's not as supportive as a family setting.
Support within the community?
it took 4 years finding the right medication for me, and the community I was going to mental health for this, and then I came to Abbey House. They suggested to come to Abbey House, which I did, and they helped me considerably between.
They treated me okay. They asked if I wanted to do programs to deal with it or just to learn more about it.
That's great.
Well, the community I was really involved with was the church. Okay, the Mount Lehman, small, tight-knit community. We lived there too for a while, and so they were not. Yeah, I guess they were supportive in a way, but not to me directly. Only that it was like nothing happened, and I felt the difference, the way they talked to me.
I've gotten great support through the mental health services. I had a mental health worker for probably a good 8 years that was very supportive for me. I had a psychiatrist for 7 years who was very supportive.
They didn't have as many resources, I don't think, or as many that people knew about back then that they could channel. And so we didn't really have a whole lot.
In the past, I would say probably not very good. They didn't understand it as much. Hospitals, we had a hard time with. Doctors. Now it's sort of gotten a bit better. I still don't think we have proper institutes for this, and I think half the community understands it, and I think half of the community doesn't. So I think we still have a long ways to go with the support for mental health.
Again, culture is one of those big words like community. And over the years, I think that culture has evolved and changed. And, in years past, it was probably more narrowly defined than it is today. Today, a cultural group can be found, with any group that you have sort of a sense of belonging or feel something in common with, or that sense of commonality sort of brings people together. And whether it can be a team, a sports team, it can be a group of people with similar interests or passions or ideas, anywhere where a person feels that can enhance their sense of belonging.
Well, I guess thinking a little bit about culture, Eric and I both grew up in Dutch background, and again, in that kind of setting, mental health wasn't really talked about. For a lot of years, in our families, I think we both grew up with this idea that it was okay to go to see a doctor if you had a broken arm or if you had something outwardly physically not right with you or if you were ill. But if there was something not right with your mental health, you didn't talk about it. It was something that you kept within your family, and it was very, very private and secretive. Actually,
depends on which culture you mean. Work culture, they don't acknowledge it. Outside of my buddy there, you can't talk about it at work because it's like, if you got mental problems, you're a mental case. So there's no problem. So there's no reason to talk about it.
I think it's better for understanding it. I think in the past, religion was a big thing with this. From my grandmother's side, it was considered devil, or they needed exorcisms, and they would pray for them, and they'd end up in institutions for 8 to 10 years, and some would never come out. And now I think it's more understood and more supported, so it's not, they don't think it's just a culture, it's a mental health issue, not a cultural or environment or lines.
Well, we grew up in the Western culture, we're Canadian, and it's like the school board, when my dad was a teacher, did not believe that he had a mental illness, and I find that the Western culture is very stigmatizing towards people with mental illness, and they sent him to a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and they're actually the ones who diagnosed him with schizophrenia, manic depression, and bipolar, and so they didn't have any choice but to support him.
Speaking personally as an Aboriginal human being, and from a background of stronger cultural ties to my lineage and my heritage, that very, very supportive to anybody with mental illness. In fact, can probably nurture it a lot more. You know, I picture the places where I practice my culture, and the other groups of human beings that come there to support me, and we support each other in that setting. And if a mental person came that we don't even know, we can nurture, take care of that human being and make them feel immediately supported for their mental illness, because I've seen it, actually seen it many times in my culture, that all that you see is sacred, and everything has a spirit, and nobody is above or below anybody else. We're all the same, and they get treated that way, regardless of race, sexual orientation, and especially for mental illness. So the cultural aspect, I think, can support as well, if not even better than some family settings. Not all, but some.
We noticed that family members were hesitant to talk about their family members' experience because of the underlying stigma and shame towards individuals with mental illness. We found that with support from family, individuals with mental illness were able to recover and maintain stability in their life.
We found that community can be more than just mental health resources. It can include an individual's neighborhood, their school community, and recreation. When talking about community, some individuals expressed that although they thought the attitude towards individuals with mental illness had improved, we still have a long way to go. Some thought that their communities were still not willing or open to discussing mental health, while others expressed that they were able to find resources in their community that supported them.
Culture. We found out that culture can be defined in many ways by different people. We learned that although in the past culture may have been narrowly defined as one's ethnic background, it has evolved into include any group with which an individual finds an identity or belonging.